A warm welcome to the POLICON, here where we discuss politics and economics. I do hope you are doing well. Of course, we are into the festive season, and I can tell you there are lots of businesses that are actually making some good moves. The business people, the business community, some of the government offices are already heading into what you would call a leave, a festive season leave. Some people are already home and heading to their different rural areas to ensure that they do celebrate the festive season. But of course, here we happen to bring you all that matters business, and our discussions are mainly centered around how you can position yourself in the political and social way so that you can fit in as a business person. So it's more of a political economic situation that we discuss, and in today's discussion we're looking at how we can uphold business resilience amidst these particular economic and political challenges that come in here and there. As the year is coming to an end, these are some of the discussions that we will be definitely trying to understand. And my guest today is Honorable Henry Banyenzachi, who is a former Member of Parliament for Rubanda West, and also currently from the office of the Operation Wealth Creation. Many thanks for joining us, Honorable.
Thank you.
Please say hello to the viewers as well.
Hello, viewers. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Okay.
I know this is a worldwide network that we are on now.
Yes.
Our viewers are at different time zones.
Yes. And indeed, if you are a viewer out there and you want to get us online, you can go onto our YouTube channel, Smart24 TV Live. Please do remember to subscribe, but also on our different social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. And then on mainstream, we are on GoTV, channel 394. The DSTV is channel 372. That is where we continue to drive your business. Now, Honorable, as we look at upholding business resilience, one of the biggest tasks we faced this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and because the businesses are recovering, is the fact that people are trying to fit in again to the pre-pandemic levels. But then you get to realize we have some challenges in there throughout 2022, of which I would wish to ask, if at all, from your point of view, which challenges do you believe were hard to deal with in this particular time of 2022?
It's good that you have started with the COVID-19 pandemic that affected business and the economy as such. So to start from there, the biggest challenge is that there is a feeling within the business community, which I agree with them, there wasn't any kind of packages that would bring these businesses back to the rail. So there were no incentives to the business community. Those who were renting, they continued paying rent as usual, even including the arrears. There was no tax recess, there was no tax relief. And when it has started within this year, again, they are hit by the government, by the Ministry of Finance, who is holding the payment to the government suppliers.
Okay.
Which is a big hit, a knock, which is a big knock to the government enterprises. So when you hold money for suppliers, which is in the range of trillions, the last time I checked is that 10%, which is around 4 trillion, was outstanding as domestic arrears. That means that is 4 million was drawn from the private sector, from the businessmen, me and you, those who are supplying government, and you're not paying them, so you are holding their money. At the end of the day, if you're holding with their money and these are the loans that they got, then that means that the banks are going to sell their properties because they are not servicing the loans. That's number one. And the business community has been hit so hard. So my call to the government would be pay the domestic arrears, pay government suppliers.
Okay.
And secondly, again in this year, we get out of this pandemic, policy shifts and policy changes. We had like coffee suppliers demonstrating against the government because government had prepared the coffee suppliers to supply seedlings, which they had prepared for, say, like 2 years. And all of a sudden, they say, we are not uptaking that coffee. And that one did not only happen in coffee. It happened in coffee, it happened in cocoa, it happened in the other kind of inputs that NADS was handling. So which means these other coffee seedlings, these coffee dealers, coffee nursery operators, with that number of seedlings, they did not have an uptake because they had a hope that the government would take up those seedlings. So you hit the private sector again. You are now hitting the agro industry. You are hitting the sector that is making this economy run. Of course, there was even this business of the Penetti story about coffee. That's also, it was another shock into the coffee sector.
Okay.
In a sense that now you are sending wrong signals to the market. It also hit. Okay. And actually, I must congratulate the UCDA. Mm-hmm. Amidst all this, they are still fighting. They are still holding the sector.
Okay.
So that is, we are talking about policy incoherence and policy shifts within the government. Of course, there are some other kind of things that happen. It is within this year again that they produced parish development model, where we promised a lot to the rural sector, where we promised a model that would revolutionize the rural economy. And again, that parish development model, the way they had created to promise to the people that money was not released in time. I'm told they are just beginning to release now. Yesterday I was reading that they have released 4 districts out of 100 and plus. Yet this is something that was budgeted. And at the time when they were budgeting it as a government, they withdrew money from all the institutions, ministries and departments so that they bring a lump sum sum of something like 1.4 trillion. So meaning that these other institutions that were into the productive sector, the activities were incinerated. So this also affects business. Okay. In all this, government is expecting is collecting taxes, URA.
Yes.
So when as I had said, the business community did not get a tax relief. So you are taxing, you are really milking a cow
that is still struggling.
That was not feeding.
Yeah.
That had been hit by that pandemic. So business has been hit and yet you are taxing. Okay. So the business community, you find that URA at the end of the day was closing so many businesses. And some of the businesses dropped out. Some of the businesses relocated to they actually got out of the business. So you see the business community is hit hard. The economy is hit hard. And of course, in all this, I don't see my comrades within the government adjusting to their consumption. We still see expense on administrative expenses increasing. We still see Parliament increasing its salary more or less 100% or 50%, let's say. That's administrative cost. So the political class did not tighten its belt, and yet the productive sector were not being paid enough. No. So this is also a problem. We see government borrowing from the banks, commercial banks. And then you are seeing the private sector, the commercial people, me and you who get salary loans, and those who get business loans, you are competing with government to get a loan from the commercial bank.
That means the interest rates for you are going to increase.
1.4, something like 1.4 trillion, which means the banks will be having less money to borrow the private sector.
They would rather,
because they have less money to borrow the private sector, the interest rates will be hiked. Yes. Because the bank will prefer to deal with the government, which is a sure deal.
They know
it
the money
is like they are
back.
getting free money.
Very true.
So government wouldn't have been competed, shouldn't. Government should stop competing with the private sector. And government has an opportunity to get these loans from multi-financial borrowers they can get from World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, East African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, where the private sector can't go. But now government is drawing from there, coming to compete with the private sector in the banking sector. And that explains the high interest rates. And of course, when businesses are operating where the costs are very high, then they will be knocked out automatically. So, of course, the other issue is, of course, the competition, whereby, for example, as government is borrowing, we are getting money from China, we are getting money from EU, and those money come conditionally, like contractors here. You find all the contractors in Chinese loans are Chinese. EU are European countries. So when you are having that kind of environment, now the private sector will be constrained to survive. And that's why you see a lot of struggle. And then as we see this, when you go to education sector, you see what has happened to education. So the struggle of the business sector, the community, is too much.
Honorable, now this very government came up with the program of the parish development model. The idea was there before this financial year that we are in, 2022-2023, but then its implementation on ground was to start happening in this financial year that we are in. And the main emphasis about the parish development model was to ensure that Ugandans are into the money economy. So the money was supposed to be heading to different parishes, and of course members of parliament and other legislators were reminded to go to their different constituencies and districts to ensure that this money will reach these people. Was the parish development model the rightful approach to ensure that Ugandans are getting into the money economy, or government would have done something else?
The design, the thinking is good.
Okay.
When you put thoughts to it, taking money, the parish is good. But the design and the implementation
was different.
Could be lacking.
Okay.
And that's why you are having slow implementation. And this kind of slow implementation within government programs and projects is cancerous. It cuts across all the sector. And once it cuts across all the sectors, again the private sector is the one to suffer. I can tell you for a fact that nobody has been spared, including me. I can give you an example. You're dealing with a project where it is an infrastructure project, where the affected persons which are being affected by this infrastructure project, when the government is passing the road, where is passing the high electricity voltages, all these utilities, you have to compensate the landowners. Now, you have a government, you have a contractor coming, passing through your land without compensation. When you claim your post-compensation, hell rains on you. They send you police.
Okay.
They send you the army. They say government projects must proceed against your right.
As
I've experienced it.
You once shared that story.
So
with us.
if you can imagine, if I've invested in a property, I've invested in land, I'm going to utilize that land. You have refused to compensate me. It's like I paid money for land to donate it to government. So me and government, who should be donating to each other?
Government.
And I'm not only one.
There are quite a number of people affected.
Yeah, man. Look at what the issues were being raised about this oil pipeline. People have not been compensated. Yes.
Very few have been. There are those who have been compensated.
Few. It is a struggle. I'm talking of high voltage electricity.
Okay.
I'm told now these towers are being cut.
Okay.
You never know. It could even be cut by those people who are not never compensated. So government, when it comes to implementation of government projects, now it is very slow. Like now that project of electricity, high voltage electricity, to the industrial area to Ruzira, it is approaching to an end. It's just like 2 weeks to end. but they have not fully utilized the money they borrowed from the multinational. So, and that is a lot. Every year, the government is paying close to 10% of the national budget to service the loans. That is about, for example, now maybe close to 5 trillion. 5 trillion of the taxpayers' money is being used to service the loans. But the implementation for the money that the government borrowed to implement these projects is distraction slow. You find some projects are implemented, the satisfaction is 15%, 20%, 30%. That also affects the private sector, because the private sector does business with government. So if private sector is doing with government, and the government is not doing implementation for public works and services, then the private sector gets affected. And that's why we're having these other problems coming in. Okay? And even that 5 trillion that I'm talking about, that we are using to service the loans, would have been money injected within the economy. But because we have that obligation, we have to do it anyway. But because this money is being injected out, we can the service sector will be operating into a situation with poor infrastructure. You know that. When you have poor infrastructure, you can now imagine what's happening in Kampala. It takes you 3 hours to travel a journey of
10 minutes.
10 kilometers, which you would have used in 3 minutes. So that is money lost. That is time lost. You cannot have, in Kampala, you cannot arrange 3 meetings in a day. You cannot arrange more than 3 meetings.
You're going to fail.
Actually, if you are wise, you do 2. 1 in the morning,
one in the
evening. So how do you expect me, a businessman, I'm going to be having all these like businessmen, consultants, whatever.
Yes.
Business is about meetings and discussing deals. So how do you expect me to compete with somebody who is saying in Nairobi or another city, who is going to hold 6 meetings in a day, is going to cut 6 deals in a day? Me, I'm cutting only 2 deals. So he's triple. His business is triple engagement than mine. And then it will affect me. It will affect both the business sector, the private sector, and the public sector, because there is not the business, the conducive that we're operating in is very difficult. If it is somebody who has come, okay, maybe let me put it in a simpler language. If somebody has come from a country, let's say from Rwanda, Kabale, is shopping, and one shop he has slept in Ndeba, and is going to take 3 hours, 4 hours to reach the city center and shop, and maybe road, he cannot use it in 1 day. So he will visit only 1 shop instead of visiting 5 shops. So if, because of this kind of congestion and the jams and the what, all these environments aggregated together makes it difficult, very, very, very difficult. You are having infrastructure, and then talk about bringing the produce from the country, agricultural products. If they are going to be moved in such a kind of condition, if a farmer has loaded his cabbages, that is the fresh food,
okay,
and he's going to take 5 hours in a jam to reach off-roading point. He's off-roading tomorrow. Then buyers are getting difficult to access the product. They are perishing. It's not selling very fast. So, there is a lot. You cannot believe it. There is a lot that happens.
But when you
look at, when you are talk about even the infrastructure, to look at our road from Mombasa, moving goods from Mombasa, let's say to Kampala.
And you're using Malaba.
You take a whole day. You reach Ginger, jam starts in Ginger to Kampala. Yeah. So there are a lot of issues that complicate complexes that make it business so difficult. And we are not talking about only transport. So what do we need to do? We need to develop better infrastructure.
Oh.
We need better roads, like that road that is Atari to Mombasa should be a 3 or 4 lane outing from Kampala and going to the coast.
Okay.
We use Lake Victoria, we use water. We are not using it. We use Port Bell. That's an inland port. We are not using it.
Honorable, before we go into a break, I want
use the railway. We are not using it.
To briefly mention something about my key point here of the parish development model. When the funds were being released, there were reports that were filed that most of the parish chiefs and of course the people who were supposed to disburse these funds had already started misusing these funds. We're in 2022 and
that's why I told you design and implementation
of this one. Because it was
I've used that one as an example.
Okay.
If projects of programs are designed badly, the results will be bad.
Okay.
So if I don't want to constrain myself on parish model. That is something very small.
No, it was supposed to.
No, that's
to
very
be
small.
Very huge importance to the small households.
No. That's a very small matter. These households, their livelihood is into the agrarian sector. Okay, agriculture sector. So how much have we as a government pumped in the agriculture sector? So this parish development model that you are talking about, don't be hoodwinked to talk on the private sector, parish development model, as if it is the magic bullet that's going to transform this country. This country will be transformed by the agricultural sector. This country can also be transformed by the mineral sector, which is underutilized, by the agricultural sector, which is not being financed. So this, what you are talking about, this parish development model, and the highly sung, if you go for it, you will leave the point.
Okay.
You will leave that point of agrarian economy. The biggest business this country can do, the agrarian business.
Focusing on the agriculture sector.
We are producers of coffee. The whole world needs coffee. Do you know how many cups of coffee have been taken today?
No, I don't.
Tea. I'm here taking tea.
Okay. Honorable, after the break, we're going to be discussing more about the private sector and the public sector, government and the private sector players. And for the viewers out there who are still watching us, you are watching the POLICON. We're going to the break, but we do return with more discussions, basically surrounding how businesses can survive and be resilient amidst the economic and political challenges here and there. Stick around, I'll be right back.